characteristics that would not be accessible
To
to those who
others,
do not
to
believe.
unbelievers. Yes, sir.
So it presumes that for one to be able to understand, okay, anything within Christian ethics, one has to be a Christian believer. I'm not too sure if all of you have read the article I asked you to read. If you remember in the first part of that article, you have, for example, the positions of the post-liberals. Okay, the post-liberals would include, for example, Hans Frey on biblical theology. Okay, and you have another guy, George Lindbeck, in systematic theology. Okay, and Howard was in moral theology. Each of these post-liberals are arguing that one has to be able to enter into the language world of Christian faith for him to be able to understand its inner logic. Okay? And that therefore the the moral theology or the ethical dimension of that faith becomes the grammar of that language game. Okay? That if you are, for example, to speak English and you want to really master English, you have to be able to master the grammar of English. And the grammar refers to ethics. Do you understand? That is the whole perspective. So if you cannot understand, if you're an outsider, if you don't speak that language, you will never be able to speak that grammar correctly. Okay? So you have to be able to enter into that world, master that language within that narrative, so that you may be able to speak grammatically or ethically correct. Okay? And something that is only available to those who believe. If you don't believe, you will never be able to understand such ethical demands within the framework of that particular narrative. Is that clear to you? So the language itself is something exclusively belonging to the Christian discourse. Do you understand? So that is something very unique for Christians. So George Lindbeck, in particular, he speaks of this in terms of what he would refer to as a cultural linguistic model. He speaks about three models in understanding religion. The first, he says, is the propositional model. Do you know what propositional model is? Propositional model associates religion with doctrinal statements, okay, and belief system that one needs to understand. And for example, when you speak about religion, it is associated with the principles, statements of doctrine, and pronouncements. That's propositional. What does religion propose for its faithful to believe, to follow, and to live out? Is that clear? That is one model according to according to George Lindbeck. The other model, he says, is experiential expressivist model. What does that mean? Okay, he identifies liberal theology as belonging to this. That religion is about the experience of faith, okay, and one is able to express that experience that is claimed to be universal for people, for anybody, or any thinking subject, Okay, that, for example, your own experience of transcendence of God is something to which humanity is very keen in terms of uh, identifying. It follows basically the whole thinking of Karl Rahner. You are familiar with Karl Rahner. Karl Rahner speaks about theological anthropology. Okay, in Karl Rahner's theological anthropology, he speaks about the capacity of human beings through his or her experiences, his own humanity opens himself or herself up to transcendence, to being much higher than he is. Okay? And once he is able to experience that and give witness to that through language, through his own articulation of that, in his way verbatim or to verbalize or to live it out, that is what you mean when you say experiential expressivist model. Okay? So, in a way, very concretely, the way you understand the Bible is that you start with human experience, okay? And then try to understand that human experience and see that lightened up, okay, or enlightened by the Gospels. Do you understand? So you start from human experience and you make sense of the Bible, okay, starting with your human experience. So human experience becomes the common ground. So if every human person has experiences, that becomes the common ground. Now, for Christians, the way to understand human experience is to be able to more or less make sense of the meaning of the Bible in one's life, but not limited to the Bible for its own understanding of that human experience that he is able and he is called to live out. Do you understand? There could be many other sources by which transcendence or God makes us appreciate the impact, the reality, and the meaning of our experiences. Is that clear? So that is something in liberal theology that you're able to share with any thinking subject. Just because it's human being, you could actually connect with other human beings in trying to start with human experience and make sense of that in a more profound way, including a theological understanding of that experience. Okay? Now, according to them, uh, the starting point, okay, is not just the experience, but the starting point is actually our tradition to which you are part, to which you belong. Actually, even for Hans Fry, if you read the article, he says that we do not allow the Word of God to enter our human experience in the way the experiential expressivists would want us to understand, but rather we enter the language world of the Bible. We enter the tradition of the Bible and make sense of our experience from the perspective of the Bible itself. So the starting point is the Bible, according to Hans Fry. And in George Lindbeck concept, it is basically trying to enter into that language world. Okay, you have to be a Christian. You have to be able to enter into that world of Christianity so that you may be able to understand the meaning of your experience. Because it is only within the tradition, within the cultural, linguistic reality, can you make sense of the unique experience you may have as a person. Do you understand? So for you to be able to make sense, okay, of your faith, you have to be able to enter into that. Okay, you cannot be talking about somebody who would be trying to be able to understand Christian tradition apart from it in a very objective, distantiated, and scientific way. Because there are thinkers who would like to study Christianity. One example of that is Slavo Zizek. I don't know if you've heard about him. If you Google in the internet, you'll see a lot of talks, given by this very, very famous philosopher in our time today, Slavo, okay, Zizek. He is a philosopher of the Lacanian tradition, no? Lacan, you're familiar with Lacan. He studied that in philosophy, okay? He belongs to the tradition of Hegel and Karl Marx. He combined these three traditions, and that's what he is coming from. And then he talks about he is a Christian atheist. What does that mean? He knows very well the tradition of Christianity, but he does not believe in God. He's an atheist. You understand? For post-liberals, that is going to be impossible. Okay? Whatever he says will be completely out of context, and he would never be able to get the originary intuition that is at the very heart of the tradition in its own language game. Okay? Of course, George Lindbeck, in his cultural linguistic model, adopts Wittgenstein. You're familiar with Ludwig Wittgenstein. In philosophy, you studied Ludwig Wittgenstein as having two phases in his life. The early Ludwig Wittgenstein is actually somebody who is very much into analytical tradition. Okay, he wanted to study language and want to understand reality in terms of one-to-one correspondence. Language, word corresponds fully to one reality. But then later on, when he discovered that, he said, I'm done with philosophy. I've discovered the most important part of philosophy. And he abandoned, he taught grade school students, in kindergarten kids. And then after some years, he went back to philosophy and then came up with a new understanding of philosophy. And that's when he discovered the importance of linguistic philosophical system. Okay, that speaks about the importance of being part of a language game. New language game. It is something that one is able to understand in terms of meron silang correspondences. Um, something that one is able to understand only within that language game. And that was appropriated by McIntyre, that was appropriated by the post-liberals, and that is the way they want to understand faith. So faith and Christianity, for that matter, as a religion, cannot but be appreciated only within the language game of a particular community. If you want, okay, to understand uh, that religion, you have to be able to enter that. And then, in a way, live out that story, okay, and in a way, speak its language correctly with the correct grammar, and that is its ethics. So if you want to be a Christian, you have to be able to, your life should be ethical according to the grammar of Christianity. Is that clear? Okay. Are you with me? Can you follow? So they can never talk, they can never speak about autonomous ethics. Ethics cannot but always be a faith ethics. It is within the faith tradition that ethics can be appreciated. Is that clear? And once you're able to live that out, you don't have to convince other people outside of your tradition. All that you need to do is correctly speak its grammar, its ethics, and live that language game in your life. And in the process, your life becomes a story, okay, understood and flourishing only within the story of your own tradition, flourishing within the story of salvation of Jesus. You understand? And all that you are concerned about is not even, trying to make others understand your own story. You just have to live it out. Now, if others see you living your story in a happy, fulfilled, and satisfied way, you make them think, how is it that brother so and so is very happy with his life, being a Christian? And then in so doing, okay, the person who looks at you may realize his story seems to be better story because he is happier, he is more fulfilled. While I'm here in my own narrative as a liberal or as somebody who is actually a secular, I don't believe in God. I'm so confused. I'm all the time struggling in my own misery, etc., etc. And one day I wake up to my reality that my story is a very bad story, and therefore I should be able to learn uh, to see and appreciate the story of a Christian believer and be able to enter into that language world and begin to tell my story accordingly. And then I become a Christian, I become a convert, and then I live out my life meaningfully as a Christian within that particular narrative. Okay? And begin to live its ethics, the norms that are demanded of me as a Christian within that particular story. Are you with me? Is that clear?
Yes, Father.
Do you have any question? Does that make sense to you? In first, I wish to ask you, does that make sense to you? I think that is a very meaningful discourse. Okay, but how would you problematize that? I'm having problem with my computer. My goodness. No, I cannot just close it again. Oh no. Are you with me? Can you listen? Can you hear me?
Just Father, just Father.
Yes, Father.
Okay, okay. Now,
Father.
what can you say about what I have just explained? The position of the post-liberals. Do you agree with that? Or how do you problematize that? Are you okay with that?
Yes, Father. Okay with that. Pads,
Yeah.
ano, can you record our conversation, our class?
No, no, no. My
Cannot
problem
be.
is my computer. No, my problem is my computer is already heavily loaded that it is getting
Okay.
very, very slow. And if I record it, then it's going to problematize me even all the more. That's why I
If it's
don't want.
okay, kung pwede ako na lang magre-record,
Yeah,
Father.
sure, sure. Of course, you can do that. You can do that. You're free,
Thanks,
okay,
Father.
to do that. Okay. Yeah. So, do you have any question? Does that make sense to you, Toribio? Daniel?
Yes, Father.
So you can understand the basic logic, okay, of the post-liberals, okay, whenever they talk about ethics, morality, always appreciated within their language world of Christianity, okay? And therefore, our ethics cannot but be connected substantially with the Bible, which is at the very heart of Christian tradition. And our own stories, our own experiences in life have to make sense only from the perspective of the biblical narratives. You get that? If you get that, do you have problems with that? What do you think? So they say, well, you just if you want to understand and believe, okay, just be part of our tradition, okay, and realize that yours is not a very good one, and that therefore you'll never be happy there in your own tradition. Okay? So if you want to be a free thinker, you don't believe in God, you'll become miserable. And like me, I'm a Christian, I believe in God, and this gives me a sense of fulfillment, a profound sense of meaning in my life, etc. Go on with your being an atheist, go on with your being an agnostic. Okay? I don't mind what you want to do with your life, but you will not be happy there, according to them. Okay? You will never have sense of meaning, profound meaning in your life Okay, without connecting your story, your personal story, with the story of your community you call the church, and the story of the church is always associated with the story of salvation. Okay, the history of salvation according to God's own purpose and plan. Yes. Yeah, sure. How? Huh? How do you do that? And so I have to pass on to you. Yes, yes. How do I do that? Excuse me, James is here. He wants to record our lecture, but there should be a way to do that here. Yeah, I think you have to put it up now here. That's where it appears here. Oh, great. It's not showing now. Why? There you go. Where's the recording? That I have to pass it to you. I don't want to record it in my computer. Yeah. How? How you have to? Have to share with you. Your you become co-host. No. How do you become a co-host? Yeah. Here we go. Control. Wait a minute. Uh, it's not. It's not appearing. So, what do you think? What do you think about that? Do you agree fully with that, or would you want to raise some critical issues on that? So, how is it? You want it? Okay, okay. Sige.
Father, can I say
Does
something?
that make sense to? Yes, go ahead, please. I do not see
I
you.
think,
Please
Father,
introduce yourself.
Randy
Uh,
Grano, Father.
Sino to? Sino nagsasalita? You do not appear in my computer.
Randy, Father, Randy.
Randy. Okay, go
Yes,
ahead.
Father. Hopefully you
What's your
know, you hear me,
What's
Father.
your question?
It's not a question, Father, but a little, what do you call this?
Okay, go ahead.
Disturbed because in this idea of morality, according to the liberalist, I think the idea of ethics here has become exclusivist
Yeah. Yes.
in a sense that like only our group is happy if, as you said earlier, if you want to be happy, if you want to be morally in our way of language, you should follow us. So in a sense, if I don't follow, I am not morally or ethically correct as they define ethics. But I think ethics must be inclusivist, not exclusivist, in a sense that it should be open to all, regardless with this idea of God, in a sense, idea of, well, in a sense, I am a Catholic, but it should be my what do I mean is ethics must be inclusivist, not exclusivist. That is why I'm a little disagree with the idea of this post-liberalism.
You're saying, I'm not too sure if I'm getting you correctly. You're saying that ethics should not be expressivist, but what? But inclusivist?
I mean, not should be. It should be inclusivist, father. And that's my
Yeah, yeah. But
opinion.
no, but of
Because I
course,
can sense
yeah,
that. Yeah,
yeah. Go ahead, go ahead.
because
Yeah, I think you're correct in your observation that there will be a tendency among the post-liberals to be able to have a kind of an exclusivist claim to their own experience of salvation. Okay,
that's
it is not. It is something similar with what born again Christians would want to assume, or it would be something with what Iglesia ni Cristo would claim, and that therefore, if you want to experience happiness and fulfillment and salvation, you have to be able to enter into our language world and be converted. Okay? And we know that that position becomes problematic because it assumes that your own happiness, fulfillment, and salvation heavily depend only on whether or not you allow yourself to be converted to our religion. And that becomes problematic, especially in the ecumenical discourse, no? Of being not judgmental on other traditions, but uh, be open and not in a way have an exclusive claim to the experience of salvation. So if that is what you mean, then you have a correct. They are being criticized for precisely on that basis. Okay.
Thank you, Father.
Okay. Thank you. Any other? Okay.